Hello, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's your host, the Truth Buster, and it's still October 23rd, 2015. You know, they're not going to stop. They're not going to quit until they get them. For the New World Order to be fully have implementation and complete control here in this country, they have got to take our guns. That is one of the things, one of the top things that is preventing the full implementation. And they're not stopping. They're finding every way they can think of to get the green light to do so. Point being, this is from yesterday, October 22nd, from IntelliHub.com. It is here. Court ruling paves way for mass confiscation of firearms in America. This should raise the antennas on your head and get your sixth sense, your spidey sense, tingling with fury. Gun control proponents and media allies also continue to push for mass confiscation. In a ruling that directly paves the way for mass confiscation of firearms in America, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit, in a much anticipated decision, has upheld the constitutionality of the New York SAFE Act of 2013 and its SAFE. Shockingly, the court ruled that nearly all of the most drastic gun control law in the history of the United States did not violate the Second Amendment and is therefore constitutional. I'm sorry, where it says in the Constitution that our rights should not be infringed. That means violate. The Founding Fathers did not have a little get-together or have a think tank and say, oh, what about this possibility here? Or this or that. No, they said it shall not be infringed. Period. That's right. A law passed in the wake of Sandy Hook that included and paved the way for confiscation of millions of illegally purchased firearms has been ruled constitutional, with proponents already calling for a similar law to be enacted at the federal level. As an article published by the American Thinker noted, if the SAFE Act is upheld by the Supreme Court, nothing prevents Congress from similarly outlawing tens of millions of firearms overnight. Once those firearms become contraband, the government may confiscate and destroy them without compensating the owner, just as the government confiscates and destroys illegal drugs. So yeah, right, they do. They keep them for themselves and they flood them back into the market and take the money. The Second Circuit's decision leaves the Second Amendment at its gravest peril ever. Second Amendment rights are now being hanging by a one-vote margin in the same Supreme Court that upheld Obamacare and declared a national right to gay marriage. Isn't that just wonderful? Like I said, we need to do something. I'm doing something. I've gotten hold of some of the city leaders in this town. Hopefully they'll call me back. It's unknown, but hopefully they will. Constitutional conservatives and Second Amendment supporters ought to be terrified. Me, myself, yeah, I'm really freaked out over this. Over the prospect of Justice Scalia having a heart attack during Hillary Clinton's presidency, and we know Clinton is calling for mass confiscation herself. Australian-style mass confiscation is coming. In the weeks since the most recent mass shooting in the country, literally dozens of mainstream publications have promoted Australia as a country to look towards when considering new gun control laws in America. Despite the fact that for years, gun control groups and anti-gun liberals have claimed that they only want common sense gun control, news outlets such as Salon and Slate are once again openly praising Australia's controversial 96 gun control law, a law that included mandatory gun buyback programs under the threat of government force. After the stage regarding, now I'm putting that word stage, but it doesn't say that. Stage regarding shooting, highly trafficked liberal news outlet Slate republished an article praising Australia's gun control law that was originally released in the wake of the Sandy Hook massacre. In the weeks since the recent shooting, the article has become the top read report on the site, as well as linked by dozens of other liberal news outlets. Emphasis. Mine. I don't know what that means. On April 28, 1996, a gunman opened fire on tourists in Seaside Resort in Port Arthur, Tasmania. By the time he was finished, he had killed 35 people and wounded 23 more. It was the worst mass murder in Australia's history. 12 days later, Australia's government did something remarkable. Led by newly elected Conservative Prime Minister John Howard, it announced a bipartisan deal with the state and local governments to enact sweeping gun control measures a decade and a half hence. The results of these policy changes are clear. They worked really, really well. At the heart of the push was a massive buyback of more than 600,000 semi-automatic shotguns, rifles, or about 1/5 of all firearms in circulation in Australia. The country's new gun laws prohibited private sales, required that all weapons be individually registered to their owners. And that's what they've been trying to do here for years, but it's failed. And we need to make sure that it continuously fails. Need to speak up. Get a hold of your elected officials in the states in which you live. And require that gun buyers present a genuine reason for needing each weapon. At the same time of the purchase, self-defense did not count, which is a bunch of bullshit. Ugh. In the wake of the tragedy, polls show that public support for these measures upwards of 90%. Like most other articles praising Australia's gun laws, the author of the Slate article completely leaves out the fact that the buyback program was mandatory, which means that anyone that refused to go along with the program was subject to government raids and or violence, meaning they would bust in their house and shoot them down if they didn't go along with it. That's exactly what it means. Remember, these are the same liberals who claim that they do not want to take away all guns, while literally writing articles promoting a gun law that would not only include gun confiscation, but also ban purchasing guns for use in self-defense. Another recent article published in mainstream press, this time by the communist news network known as CNN, dreamed of disarming all Americans while calling for banning guns once and for all. The article, written by liberal poet and Middlebury College professor Jay Perini, was a perfect example of how, on one hand, gun control advocates and their media allies tell the public that they only want common sense reform, while on the other, they are pushing for a full-scale ban. Perini gets to the crux of his and the many who are share whose views on the left's agenda, which is the confiscation of millions of illegally owned firearms under the threat of government attack, of subsequent outline all guns, handguns, and rifles. Let me dream for a moment. I would much prefer to live in a country where only hunters who pass appropriately strict tests for mental competence, are you serious, and a knowledge for gun safety can still acquire rifles that are appropriate for hunting. Handguns and assault rifles will be banned, period. Banned, period. There you have it, folks. CNN letting a hard left authoritarian use their platform to dream about disarming America. And it gets worse. So let's get rid of the guns in the country once and for all, making it a felony to possess a handgun or assault rifle. Over the period of years, illegal guns would gradually disappear. Guns don't kill people, as they say. People who acquire guns, legally or illegally, do. And we should make it extremely difficult for them to get their hands on these weapons. Psst, fucking piece of shit. Excuse my language, I'm sorry. But this is it. I'm at a loss for words. Do you understand how serious this is? If you don't, find out. YouTube a video of Mexico or the Middle East, in some countries where they don't have, the right to have arms. And the people who get raided by people who do, and the poor people that don't have a gun, what are they left to defend themselves with? Sticks and rocks and any other thing they can get their hand on that might inflict some kind of damage before they get shot, if they're quick enough. Not only are the mainstream media and gun control advocates pushing for a mass confiscation, a plan in the U.S., they are also making it clear they have no problem with gun owners being shot, which would be likely an obvious outcome if the government decided to outlaw millions of firearms overnight. Just days ago, author and Coppin State University writing teacher D. Watkins, I read on this already, published an article in the prominent hard-left news outlet Salon that called for gun owners to be shot if they wanted to use their Second Amendment right. Starting out the article with writers' dreams of charging $5,000 per bullet, Watkinson makes a position of gun ownership in America is tragically clear. Rock was definitely on point. $5,000 bullets would be great. I'll take it a step further. I believe that being shot should be a requirement for ownership in America. It is very simple. If you want selfies with pistols, can't live without them, then get a bullet. You'll be granted the right to purchase the firearm of your choice. And I'm not going to continue reading the outscript of this week's I already covered in another video. And it's just insanity. So there you have it. The court has upheld the New York law that paves the way for mass confiscation in America. While at the same time, the mainstream media is pushing this clear message for confiscation and plan, making it clear that if gun owners have to be shot to achieve this agenda, then so be it. The one question that remains is whether or not the American people stand by their Second Amendment right is openly destroyed right before their very eyes. I will. The rest of you better do the same. Don't let nobody take your guns. It is our last defense. Ice-T made this quote years ago. Oh, you might be surprised. But these are his own words. The Second Amendment is our last line of defense against tyrants. God bless and carry on.